I finally pulled the plug and got the fuck out of there. So I quit my job. This shouldn't come as a shock to y'all who have been following me already, because I have multiple videos talking about how I low-key hated my job. So yeah, I finally pulled the plug and got the fuck out of there. For those of you who don't know, I was an inpatient social worker, so a medical social worker at a hospital. And I was there for 8 months, and it had to be the worst job I've ever had. I do have 2 other videos going over all the jobs I've had. I'll link them up above this video. But yeah, this one is definitely the worst. And I'm gonna tell y'all why. So, first reason why I quit, my supervisor. There's a saying that people don't quit jobs, they quit managers. And that is so true in my case in particular, because my supervisor was not a great supervisor. I don't even know how she's still a supervisor, because she fucking sucks. And the thing with her is she doesn't know how to support her people. For example, the expectation was for us to come in person every day, versus most of the other social work jobs at the hospital, they had remote work at least 2 times. The video got cut. But yeah, the other social workers were able to work remotely 2 to 3 days out of the week. My supervisor would not accommodate for working remotely for anything. So, for instance, like here in Wisconsin, we get really bad winter storms. And I remember there was one day where a ton of us couldn't come in because, like, as soon as you back out of your driveway, your ass slipping and sliding and shit. So I remember I texted her. I was like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to make it in today because the roads are horrible. And she expected me to put my life on the line and try to still come in. And when I told her I wasn't, she told me I needed to take leave, even though it's not on me that I'm missing work. You should have planned for this as a supervisor. Like, okay, I'm not gonna make my social workers that live super far away come in. Like, there was somehow she could have worked it out and worked with everyone, but she didn't. And she had the mindset that she was still able to come in, so the rest of us should have come in as well. And I'm sitting here like, and then I want to get into a car accident. Another day we had really bad weather, and I just pushed through and went to work. Yeah, I was involved in a car accident. She also didn't take the feedback myself or anyone else was giving her. She was strictly by the book. And for instance, I told her the training fucking sucked. The way training was conducted for this position, nobody's gonna understand how to do this shit from that. Obviously, I said it more professionally than that. It's kind of like I was thrown to the wolves, and she was basically like, oh, with time you're gonna get it, you're gonna get faster, you're gonna get better. And when time kept passing and I had the same feedback, like, hey, I still need help with this, or it's still taking me a while to get through my notes and my documentation, she was like, oh well, if you don't like it, you know, you can leave. This job isn't for everyone. And I'm like, as someone who used to be a supervisor, that's not how you respond to that. You try to figure out what the issue is, how to help that person, and don't just say, oh, well, you can go, you can quit, you can leave if you don't like it. No, you don't want people to quit. You want people to stay there and enjoy working somewhere. So yeah, she was just a horrible supervisor. She was like a nice, nasty supervisor, I'll say that. So like, she'll pretend like she gave a damn and be nice to you and shit, but she wouldn't do shit to alleviate the problem. A lot of gaslighting. She was very good at gaslighting to make you feel like what your reality wasn't what was really going on. And so yeah, I had to get the hell up out of there. The next reason why I quit is because of the work environment. So working in a hospital in general is a very fast-paced environment. I was told that during my interview, but there was some shit they didn't bring up in the interview that should have been mentioned. Because if it was, I wouldn't have took this job. For instance, each social worker belongs on a floor. There's 2 social workers to a floor. Each floor has 16 beds. If both social workers on that floor are there, they'll split the floor in half, right? So that's 8. If one of the social workers on the floor is out for that day, then the other social worker covering the floor just has all 16 beds. Okay, cool. Not a problem. My supervisor didn't mention that, yes, I'll have my standard 8 cases, and if my coverage partner is out, I'll have the whole floor, and that if another social worker is out, I'll have to cover some of their floor as well. Meaning I could have up to 18, 20 beds I'm responsible for at a time. Like, heck no. And the progression of how they wanted me to take over beds went way too quickly. So I started out with having a standard caseload of like maybe 5 or 6 for the first few weeks. And then they hurried up and moved me to my standard 8. That was quite a lot for me. Then they hurried up and was like, ooh, you need to be comfortable with 10. Then it quickly moved to you need to be comfortable with 12. Ooh, you need to be comfortable. And it just escalated so quickly. And I feel like I wasn't being heard. Like, hey, I'm not comfortable with taking on these many patients at a time. Like, I'm still new. And it was just like, oh, well, we throwing them at you. I didn't like that because I didn't feel like I could care for my patients as well when they kept throwing patients at me. There's patients who come in that have very socially complex situations going on at home. And imagine if I have 4 of those cases and I'm responsible for 10 total. And then throughout the day, doctors and nurses are writing like, hey, this veteran's family wants to talk to a social worker. And that veteran probably wasn't even on my radar because I have these other 4 veterans and their families that I need to meet with. And it's like, so it's a lot to balance. That job was hard as shit. I don't wish that job on anybody. I know that job needs to be done, but there needs to be better boundaries and environmental changes around it because the hospital environment is still very medically focused, and I feel like social workers aren't looked at as being a part of the team like that. It's kind of like we're an afterthought. If the doctors and nurses don't know how to figure it out, they're like, oh, just give it to social work. They'll figure it out. And it's like, no, I can't figure every goddamn thing out. Some shit is common sense. And these are adults. And sometimes they can figure their own shit out too. So the work environment was another huge reason why I got the fuck. The last reason that I left my inpatient social work job is because of the lack of work-life balance. My job was about an hour, 15, 20 minutes away from where I live. So that already is about 3 hours a day just based off my commute. And then I had a 8-hour work day. I worked from 8 to 4:30. with a 30-minute lunch, and I barely got a lunch. Take that back. I never really got a lunch. I can count on my hands how many times I was able to take a lunch while I was at this job, and most of them were at my desk. Just because of the fast pace, somebody always needs social work. My social work lead was very micromanaging. So yeah, that's commute and lunch alone that's throwing off the work-life balance. And I'll say for the first 6 months, documentation was kicking my ass. And I was stressing to my supervisor, look, these notes, it takes some time. Like, especially if I see 4 or 5 patients a day, I have to document all of that. yeah, it was so time consuming, because you want to get all the information that needs to be in the documentation in there, and yeah, that's gonna take some time. And my supervisor was just like, I don't understand what's taking you so long, because I was always asking for compensation time or overtime, because I'll be at work past 4:30. I won't get off until like 5:30, 6 o'clock, just to finish up my documentation. And she would get upset and mad, like, you shouldn't be staying here after work based on documentation. Where, side note, the other social workers, they would take their laptops home and finish documentation. So I always put in my head, like, I'm not taking this shit home with me. I'm gonna finish this shit here. So of course, I'm like, hey, I stayed at work later. Are you gonna compensate me for that? And most of the time it was no. I remember I had to get the union involved so she can give me my comp time. But yeah, my 8-hour workday turned into like 9-10 hour work days. And so by the time I get home, I didn't have time to cook, go to the gym, do any self-care. It was just, grab something quick to eat on the way home, get in the shower, and go to sleep, because I have to get up and go back to this place the next day. And yeah, that started to take a toll on me, and it was just really bad. So what's next for me? I do have another job. I will be a mental health therapist at an organization much closer to my house. It's about 25-30 minutes away, so it's not going to be as brutal anymore. I'm super excited because I've always wanted to break into mental health, and now I'm finally able to do that. And I can start earning hours towards my clinical licensure, so I can be a licensed clinical social worker. I feel really good about my new workplace. I've already met the owner of the therapy practice. She seems to be amazing. And yeah, of course, y'all already know I will give y'all the tea and the updates on how that's going. So yeah, that's why I quit that horrible ass job that I was at. Let me know down in the comments about a job that just you couldn't stand anymore. You either quit or you got let go from, but either way, you were just happy to get the hell up out of there. I would love to hear y'all's stories. And I will see y'all next time.